Hello and welcome to a video by Leadership Society of Arizona. In this video, we'll be talking about the importance of knowing why you want to change. Now, in previous posts, I've mentioned that life is not random and does not happen by chance. There are natural laws in life that govern how conditions change over time. Three examples are the law of gravity, laws of heat, and simple situations of cause and effect. It's important to realize that natural laws impact our lives whether we know what they are or not. But by knowing these natural laws, we can avoid moments of pain and discomfort. In this video, we're going to focus more on the conditions. Now, conditions in the past, present, and future will always be unique. No situation or person will ever have the exact same conditions. These conditions could be anything from time to a location, and they can even be describing the people involved, including how many, how they feel at the time, or what they're thinking. Another thing about conditions is that they are always related over time. For example, let's say we had a peach seedling today. In the present, by reflecting on the past, we can understand how we arrive at the present. A peach seed will grow into a peach seedling. And by better understanding the present, we can actually predict the future. If we know we have a peach seedling, then we can predict in the future it will become a peach tree. This is possible because conditions must change and be related by natural laws, meaning a peach seedling couldn't have come from a rock, and a peach seedling cannot turn into an apple tree. This would not follow natural laws. Now, if we combine the concepts of natural laws and conditions, we have the event. An event is anything that takes time. It could be a class, the weather for the day, a basketball game, or even a person's entire life. Each event has initial conditions that change over time according to natural laws into final conditions. The better we understand the initial conditions, the better we can predict the final conditions. The less we understand the initial conditions, the less we can predict the final conditions. For example, if we had a peach seed as the initial conditions, we can predict the final conditions would be a peach tree. If we didn't know the type of seed it was, we may be able to predict it would be a tree, but we may not know the type of tree. The same can be said about people. People are just as predictable. For instance, if we know a kid speaks English, then we may be able to predict his final conditions as an adult will be that he works in the United States where they speak English. The more we understand about the kid, the better we can predict what his final conditions will be. This is the same logic behind every action we take. For instance, if someone buys a lottery ticket, it is only because they can predict that they have a chance to win. You might not have enough information to know if you'll win, but you at least know you have a chance. If you didn't think you had a chance, you would never buy the lottery ticket. We all have to work. Now, many people work because they predict they will get paid. If people didn't believe they would get paid for working, many would never choose to work. It's important to understand that we all do something for a reason that makes sense to us. It might not make sense to other people, but it makes sense to us. If we don't have a reason to do something, we will never do it. So understanding why we do something is essential to change. An example of this in my life is that I wanted to stop watching Netflix. Now, I didn't really understand the specific reason for it, but I thought it would make my life happier. That belief and vision of the future, that it would make me happier, was the motivation that got me to try. Now, going through the goal was an interesting experience. I first started by consciously trying to minimize my time watching. Now, this worked for a while, but I eventually forgot about it and started watching like I normally did. So my second attempt, I gave myself some rules. I limited the days that I could watch Netflix. And again, it worked for a while, but eventually I just started binging on the days that I could watch, and ended up watching just as much. Now at this point, I'm getting pretty disappointed in myself. So my third attempt, I thought I would try an extreme. I decided to cancel my account. And this was actually pretty effective. It worked for about 6 months, but I ended up reactivating my account and binging again. Now that cycle of canceling and reactivating happened a few times up until today, which has been about 2 years since I canceled, and I haven't had much of an urge to watch anymore. And looking at all of it and through all of my attempts, I got very disappointed in myself at times because I felt like I should be able to do this by now. I felt like I wasn't progressing because after so many years I was still watching Netflix. What I didn't realize was that at every attempt I would gain a greater understanding of the reason I wanted to change. There is no effort you make that will be wasted, I found. For example, after the first attempt, I realized that I was much better rested, which was a huge benefit for me. The next time, it reaffirmed that I was better rested, but I realized even more things. I was more relaxed and had a greater desire to do good. And in the third attempt, it again strengthened and reaffirmed what I learned, but I gained more. I learned it helped me feel more self-worth about myself. And even the last attempt, I learned something new. Eventually, I had enough reasons, I understood enough why, that it wasn't hard. I was able to do it. Going to the first attempt to the present doesn't happen in an instant. It's a progression that each time you try and fail, you will gain more and more of an understanding of the reason to change. Going back to the beginning, this was initially my reason behind quitting Netflix. I felt like watching Netflix was stopping me from being happy. This was enough of a reason to get me started, but it wasn't enough to get me to do it for a long period of time, to make it a lifestyle. It wasn't until after I had a greater understanding of the reason that it became easy. The thing we have to remember is we won't do anything until we have a reason, until we understand the benefit. And identifying that reason, no matter how small or vague it may be, is the start of any change we make. And strengthening that reason and understanding is the only way to make that change permanent.